It's a pleasure to host you tonight. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're comfortable and at peace, but if you're not quite there yet, just relax in bed and listen to my voice as long as you wish, with no rush at all. Tonight's story revolves around the sounds of the ocean, not just the noises from the shore, like the waves and the seagulls, but also the sounds beneath the surface. Underwater, sea creatures communicate with whistles, clicks, and hums, making it an environment that, while peaceful, is far from silent. This story resembles a nature documentary without a plot, allowing you to drift off at any moment. To enhance this experience, you'll hear an expanded soundscape with subtle background sounds. Let's take a moment to relax as if you're turning off your day. Close your eyes and give yourself permission to rest, guiding your breathing into a slow, rhythmic pattern. As you let go of your thoughts for the day, imagine yourself on a tranquil beach, feeling the soft sand beneath your feet. Just like your breath, the ocean waves come and go in a continuous, calming motion. Listen to this sound, which has accompanied humanity since our beginnings, bringing a sense of bliss and tranquility. No matter how life changes, this rhythm will continue to provide peace. As we breathe in the fresh sea air and leave our worries behind, let's follow the rhythm of the waves, easing into a peaceful sleep. While the sound of the ocean is familiar to all of us, many other extraordinary sounds await discovery in the ocean's depths. So let's start by imagining ourselves on the peaceful shoreline. Before we dive into deeper relaxation, it's a lovely sunny day, with a clear blue sky mirrored in the glowing ocean below, sparkling in the sunlight. The surface appears calm, with gentle waves rolling toward the sandy shore, producing a soothing and steady rhythm as they wash in and out. Initially, the sound seems repetitive, but as the breeze picks up, the waves grow slightly larger and louder. Though the rhythm remains steady, subtle changes occur, influenced by the wind, like a conductor leading an orchestra. High above, a seagull circles, familiar with the ocean's sounds and movements. It watches for the right moment to dive for fish when the water is calm. Blessed with exceptional eyesight, this seagull can spot a meal from miles away. It seeks to bring food back to its newly hatched chicks, currently cared for by its mate, who's not just the mother, but also its lifelong partner, a rarity in the animal kingdom. Hoping to catch fish, or perhaps some clams or mussels, the gull cleverly drops the hard shells onto rocks to break them open. As he glides along the coast, he spots movement and gleaming shapes beneath the surface, recognized as a vast school of fish. Seagulls need to provide ample food not only for themselves and their chicks, but also for the entire colony. Shortly after, a group of gulls flies over to join him, attracted by his loud calls. They respond with their own expressive sounds, filling the air with echoing squawks. On clear, calm days like this, the gulls' sounds can be heard along the coast for miles. While seagulls are known for being noisy, they don't make sounds aimlessly. They are intelligent, highly social birds that use a wide range of vocalizations and body language to communicate with others in their colony. This communication begins even before the chick hatches. The unborn chick will make peeping sounds to get its parents' attention and request food. The parent gulls then mimic this soft mewing as a form of baby talk. The sounds used during courtship are gentle, while other situations call for loud trumpeting calls. The specific tone depends on whether the bird is trying to attract a mate or involved in a territorial dispute. Humans often attempt to interpret these sounds, translating them into human emotions and expressions. Perhaps a certain call signifies "this is my territory," or conveys joy or victory. However, The intricate details of their communication are known only to the birds themselves. This group of gulls alternates between excited chatter and long plaintive calls. Soon more birds will join them for the feast, but for now, it's the spotter's turn. He spotted the fish first and is ready to seize the moment. The gull waits until the fish are clearly visible beneath the waves before making his swift descent. He dives rapidly toward the surface, down, down, down. Seagulls can dive into the water, but they don't stay submerged for long. They're underwater just long enough to catch their prey before soaring back into the air. This is good news for the fish swimming a bit deeper below the surface. It's peaceful down there, and the fish move slowly, some hardly move at all, allowing themselves to be carried by the gentle waves as they drift further into shallower waters. The stunning coral reef emerges, with sunlight streaming through the water, creating shimmering patterns on the coral. Tiny iridescent gobies flit in and out of the vast golden structure, while larger, brightly colored fish glide serenely by, appearing to move in slow motion. The fish inhabiting the reef come in all colors of the rainbow, from vibrant orange to electric blue. As they navigate around the coral, some fish remain silent, while others produce soft sounds. Some fish create bubbles that make gentle popping noises as they rise, while others glide through the water, making delicate swishing sounds with their tails. However, these are quiet, inconsequential sounds, quite different from the constant chatter of the seagulls. At first glance, it seems as if each fish is floating silently in its own bubble, seemingly unaware of one another. One fish glides right past another, separated by mere inches, yet both appear oblivious to each other's presence, like commuters in a rush hour, too focused on their destinations to notice fellow travelers. However, this apparent indifference is only part of the story. Fish do communicate with each other in various ways. Some methods are silent, such as electrical impulses or pheromone secretion. Light and color can also convey messages during courtship, as some fish will flash lights or change to brighter or darker hues. In group interactions, body language plays a significant role. Fish respond to specific gestures when swimming together, quickly reacting to each other's movements. This ability allows them to swim in large synchronized schools, enhancing their safety and aiding in finding food. Yet, the most common method for many sea creatures to communicate is through sound, which travels even faster underwater than in the air. A bustling coral reef teeming with fish is filled with sounds as well as colors. A bright blue fish circles the reef, emitting a soft purring sound. This male fish is seeking a mate, hoping his call will attract any nearby females. He repeats this series of purring vibrations as he swims over the coral, using his swim bladder to produce a low, buzzing sound. Other fish create noises by grinding their teeth or snapping their jaws, while herring can communicate by releasing high-frequency gas. Although this may not be the most conventional way to interact, it seems to help herring schools find each other and stay together. At night, fish don't perceive sounds in the same way humans do. They detect vibrations with their inner ears, picking up mating calls, warnings, or other messages from fellow fish. For example, a dominant clownfish will open and close its jaw to create chirping and popping sounds, signaling to the rest of the group that it's in charge. Some deep-sea fish croak, singing love songs to potential mates that might be swimming several kilometers away. The meanings of various sounds in the ocean are often unclear. They might be the marine counterparts of songs, shouts, or chants. However, their true significance may be a secret known only to the fish. Scientists are eager to learn more about fish communication and the mysterious sounds produced by other sea creatures. There are even plans to develop a virtual catalog that would assist researchers in monitoring all ocean sounds, ranging from humming fish to squeaking manatees. This audio collection is called the Global Library of Underwater Biological Sounds, or GLOVES for short, which amusingly resembles the sound a cartoon fish might make. Perhaps some fish communicate using gloves, along with purrs and croaks. There are countless intriguing sounds in the ocean yet to be discovered. Further from the shore, beyond the coral reefs, other sea creatures engage in lively conversations. Two bottlenose dolphins emit exuberant clicks and whistles as they swim through the clear waters. This mother and daughter duo explore the ocean together, searching for fish. Like their prey, dolphins have various ways of communicating. Tail slaps and loud exhalations from their blowholes often serve as warning signals, while synchronized movements convey solidarity. They can also send messages through bubbles and impressive aerial displays. The two dolphins are in constant noisy interaction, expressing themselves through high-pitched whistles. They can recognize each other by sound alone from a distance. Each bottlenose dolphin has a unique signature whistle. The mother emits this whistle while pregnant, teaching it to her unborn calf. The calf spends its first year developing its own distinct sound, based on the calls of the adult dolphins in its pod. Once the young calf has created its unique call, it uses this sound to communicate with other dolphins throughout its life, almost like its personal theme song for sharing information or socializing. As they spiral downwards, the mother dolphin produces her signature whistle, a long vibrating squeak that resonates through the water. In response, her calf does not use her own whistle, but perfectly imitates her mother. This kind of affectionate mimicry is rare in nature and indicates a special bond within dolphin families. The connection between a mother and her calf is particularly close and enduring. The calf will stay by her mother's side for several more years, learning to hunt and stay safe. Even after becoming independent, she will remain with the pod and occasionally return to swim with her mother. For now, however, the two are inseparable, swimming deeper while whistling affectionately to each other in a graceful dance. When they reach their maximum depth, they decide to return to the surface to rejoin their friends and family in the pod. As the mother and calf swim upwards, their joyful clicks gradually fade away. These sounds are imperceptible to the creatures dwelling in the deeper waters. It is quiet down here, but not entirely silent. As a new sound begins to emerge, a melodic moan that gradually increases in volume. This is the song of a humpback whale. The adult male swims slowly in peaceful solitude, producing haunting vocalizations that can last for 20 minutes or more. This low, ethereal sound can be heard hundreds of miles away. The beauty of the sound itself, combined with the enigmatic nature of the whale's song, makes it even more captivating. Scientists still do not fully understand why humpback whales sing or why they create such lengthy and complex musical structures. The song typically consists of multiple sections known as phrases, with varying frequencies and volumes. These patterns are repeated over and over, sometimes for several days. In other words, humpback whales sing intricate, self-composed songs on a loop without any obvious reason. Perhaps these are mating calls or territorial claims, or they might simply be creating music for enjoyment, much like humans do. Regardless of the reason, the whales continue to sing throughout their lives. These extraordinary melodies change and evolve over time, and a whale may even share its song with another unrelated whale who can learn parts of the melody. This could be seen as the marine equivalent of a language exchange, as one whale picks up phrases from another. The humpback whale continues his slow, plaintive song while swimming upwards towards the surface. Even as he rises, the water remains dark. Night has fallen, and the silvery moonlight barely reaches the surface. The ocean is tranquil, and the only sound distinctly audible is the whale's song. His harmonies grow louder and louder, and then at last, whale falls quiet, his robust vocal cords requiring a moment of rest. It's time for a breather. The whale ascends from the depths, his head emerging from the waves, inhaling the cool night air through his blowhole. Unlike humans, whales are mindful of their breathing. They must consciously decide to surface for air. As a result, they prefer to nap near the surface rather than deep underwater. Different whale species exhibit varied sleeping habits. Sperm whales, for instance, sleep in pods while vertically aligned, appearing to stand on their tails. Now, this humpback whale, after a lengthy swim and an even longer singing session, feels the urge to rest. As he drifts on the surface, he closes one eye and allows himself to finally relax. The ocean is peaceful tonight. The whale has concluded his song, the pod of dolphins rests near the shallows, and fish find solace on the illuminated coral reef. On the coastal cliff, a family of seagulls cuddles in their nest, fast asleep. The only sound that breaks the night's calm is the gentle rhythm of the waves. The tide makes its slow approach, washing over the shore, flowing over the sand before retreating, mimicking a deep breathing pattern. With every wave, the ocean gently lulls these magnificent beings deeper into slumber. After a while, a thin layer of mist appeared just above the surface of the sea. The moonlight filtered through this mist, casting a silvery glow on the water. Just beneath the surface, small schools of silver fish moved gracefully, swaying side to side in harmony with the rhythm of the waves. With each turn, they reflected the moonlight, sparkling like falling stars from the sky. Deeper down, seaweed swayed gently, and the sand on the ocean floor shifted slowly. Everything in the water seemed to dance to an invisible melody. From a distance, the cheerful and delicate sounds of dolphins began to be heard. The dolphins leaped to the surface, drawing elegant arcs in the air, before diving back into the frothy waves. The great whale altered its melody slightly, took on a softer, deeper tone, transforming into a lullaby that brought peace to all the creatures around. Even the tiny shrimp within the coral reefs paused to listen, as if being drawn into a dream with every vibration of the water. At one point, the whale changed its course, heading toward deeper waters. With each stroke, the darkness grew denser, and the colors shifted from deep blue to midnight black. Yet this darkness was not frightening, rather. It provided a profound sense of tranquility and safety. Further down, a massive underwater cave emerged. At the entrance of the cave, phosphorescent algae and small sea anemones emitted a blue-green light, illuminating the path like a doorway. As the whale entered slowly, the sound echoing off the cave walls transformed into a song that seemed to embrace the entire ocean. The whale glided deeper into the cave, and the color of the water began to change. First, a deep navy blue appeared, followed by a shimmering turquoise hue. The iridescent stones hanging from the cave's ceiling sparkled like a rainbow as the water waves passed over them. After a while, the whale reached the center of the cave. Here, there was a massive stone ring on the seabed. The stones were covered in moss and coral, but ancient symbols could be seen in the crevices between them. These symbols resembled a language that had not been seen by anyone for centuries. The whale slowly began to circle this stone ring. With each turn, the deep hum it produced echoed among the stones. The echoes combined to create a different sound, as if someone far away was answering the whale's call. Soon, shadows began to emerge from the dark depths. First, a gigantic turtle appeared, its shell covered in moss and coral, its eyes filled with wisdom. Then, a silver-colored giant stingray glided slowly, flapping its wings silently as it began to float above the stone ring. This was a gathering of the ocean's oldest guardians. It only came together at rare times when the balance of the ocean was threatened. And today, the whale's song had summoned them here. The turtle spoke in a deep voice. The tides are changing. Shadow is growing in the depths. The stingray slowly flapped its wings. It comes from the dark pit. Something forgotten is awakening there. The whale's voice was more sorrowful than the others. If it returns, the waters will rise and the shores will disappear. Just then, a wave of light spread across the walls of the cave. The symbols on the stone ring glowed, and fine bubbles began to rise from among them. It was as if the cave itself was listening to this conversation, preparing to share its secrets. But from the depths of the water, a distant, muffled, and threatening voice could be heard. This voice was not responding to the whale's song. It was trying to suppress it. It was as if darkness was challenging the call of light. The whale, the turtle, and the stingray looked at each other. They now understood. They would have to go toward the deep pit. When entering the cave, the light emitted by the phosphorescent algae on the walls intensified. It felt as if this place was a gateway to another world beneath the sea. Tiny shrimp were hiding among the algae, while small crabs quietly scuttled between the rocks. The whale reached a spacious area in the center of the cave. Here, the ceiling was covered with thousands of sparkling coral crystals. Each crystal emitted different colors of light with the slightest movement of the water: purple, turquoise, golden yellow. They seemed to have transported the stars from the sky into the depths of the ocean. At that moment, the echo of another melody from the depths was heard. This sound responded to the whale's song. Slowly, a second silhouette emerged from the darkness, a giant white-spotted sperm whale. Its eyes shone with ancient wisdom, and its voice seemed to narrate an old epic sung for centuries. The two whales slowly circled each other, merging their voices. The resulting melody reverberated off the cave's stones, drawing all the sea creatures toward it. Dolphins, turtles, and colorful fish gathered one by one at the entrance of the cave, witnessing this ancient gathering. After a while, the white-spotted whale swam up to the cave's ceiling and touched the brightest crystal with its snout. At that moment, a delicate wave of light spread from the crystal. This light flowed through the water, settling over everyone like a gentle warmth. In that moment, it became clear that this cave was not just a refuge. It was the memory of the sea. In every melody and vibration lay the stories of thousands of years. Those stories could only be heard by those who joined the song. The light wave passed over all living beings, and suddenly the cave fell into silence. However, this silence felt more like the calm before a storm than a moment of peace. The water flow from the depths suddenly intensified. The phosphorescent algae swayed, and the sands rose like clouds. The white-spotted whale emitted a warning sound, long, sharp, and trembling. In the entrance of the cave, black shadows began to appear. As these shadows approached slowly, their shapes became clearer. Enormous, armored-looking squids. Their eyes glowed red, as if envious of the light crystals in the cave. One of them blocked the entrance with its thick tentacles. The others began to glide inside. The whales altered their melodies. This time the tunes were filled with warnings and challenges. The sound waves vibrated through the water, momentarily halting the advancing attackers. Yet the squids did not retreat. One of them lunged forward suddenly, attempting to tear away one of the ceiling crystals. At that moment, the entire cave shook. With the crystal dislodged, a dark crack opened up from the depths of the cave. From that crack, something unseen began to seep out black, smoke-like, but heavier than water. This substance darkened everything it touched, extinguishing the light of the algae. The white-spotted whale turned to Myra and sent a brief melody. The message was clear: you must get out of here, but first we need to save the light. The squids launched their attack, filling the water with tentacles and clouds of ink. Dolphins maneuvered quickly to evade the assaults, with some trying to assist the whales. A plan needed to be devised before the crystals on the cave's ceiling extinguished one by one. Mira took a deep breath, or whatever it was called, underwater, and echoed the melody conveyed by the whale in her mind. As she approached the crystal crack, she felt the water temperature suddenly drop. The crack looked so narrow that passing through it seemed nearly impossible. Yet, it was as if dark matter was bending the water's texture to create a passage. She paused for a moment and glanced back. The octopuses were colliding with dolphins and whales. At any moment, the cave's ceiling could collapse. Time was running out. When she plunged into the crack, the world transformed. She passed through the water and seemed to open into another ocean. But this one was different. There was a surface, shimmering like the sky, schools of fish flowing upward, and upside-down coral mountains. And in the center, there was a massive crystal tower that emitted its own light. Small light beings were flitting around the tower. These entities resembled human silhouettes, but were entirely made of light energy. As they noticed Mira, they quickly gathered around her, forming a bright circle. One of them approached and emitted a radiant sound. This sound seemed to be directly imprinted in Mira's mind. The source of light is in danger. If the tower extinguishes, your world will be engulfed in darkness. Speechless, Mira watched as a huge sealed door opened at the base of the tower. The door was adorned with wave patterns and inscriptions in an ancient language. The light being continued to speak. Only someone from the surface can open the door, but those inside will awaken... Before she could fully comprehend these words, the darkness behind the door suddenly stirred. A massive creature, with bony fins and no eyes, began to emerge slowly from the door. Mira stepped back, but the current of the water was pulling her toward the door once again. Mira's heart pounded fiercely, but she forced herself to remain calm. The glowing beings circle around her tightened, their light intensifying as if trying to shield her from the encroaching shadow. The giant creaturettes form a grotesque blend of jagged bone and sinewy muscle pushed through the narrow gap of the door. Its silent bulk radiating a cold menace that seemed to chill the very water. She glanced back once more at the tower, its luminous core flickering weakly, as if gasping for breath. The source of light was fading in with it, the fragile balance between their worlds. Surface dweller, the radiant voice echoed again, now more urgent. You must unlock the seal before the darkness consumes all. But beware the awakened do not distinguish friend from foe. Mira swallowed hard. The inscriptions on the door swirled faintly as if responding to her presence. Summoning every ounce of courage, She reached out and placed her palm against the cold crystal surface. The ancient script glowed under her touch, warm and pulsating like a heartbeat. Suddenly, images flooded her mind. The tower's creation, the pact between light and shadow, the sacrifice that sealed the darkness away. But something was missing, something only a surface dweller could provide. A key buried deep within her own memories, tied to the rhythm of the ocean's breath. The creature roared silently into massive body, thrashing, forcing Mira's vision back to the present. The water around her surged, currents twisting like serpents, pulling her deeper into the abyss. The light beings formed a shield once again, their glow forming a protective barrier against the creature's advance. Mira closed her eyes, feeling the echo of the whale's melody reverberate inside her chest, steady and strong. She focused on the rhythm, the ancient pulse of the ocean itself. Slowly, the inscription shimmered brighter, and the door began to hum with energy. With a mighty heave, the door creaked open further, revealing a spiraling staircase descending into shadow. The creature paused at the threshold, eye sockets void, but sensing her presence. "No time," Mira whispered, steeling herself, and she plunged into the darkness below the tower toward the heart of the source, toward whatever awaited in the depths. The staircase seemed endless, winding down through the tower's crystalline core. Each step Mira took reverberated with an otherworldly chime, as though the structure itself was alive and aware of her intrusion. Faint glimmers of light seeped from the walls, pulsing in time with her heartbeat, guiding her deeper into the abyss. Above, the muffled sounds of battle still echoed through the water dolphin's sharp clicks, whales' deep calls, and the frantic thrashing of the monstrous creature. Yet, as she descended, the noise dulled, replaced by an oppressive silence that pressed against her ears. She finally reached a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. In the center stood a pedestal of pure crystal, and upon it rested a sphere of liquid light, swirling with colors she couldn't name. Thin tendrils of shadow were already creeping across its surface, dimming its glow. Mira stepped closer, the water around her thickening with resistance. Each movement felt like pushing through invisible chains. The whispers began, then soft, curling into her mind, tempting her to turn back. "Leave it. The light is not yours. Return to the surface." But she also felt something else. A warmth calling to her. The same warmth she had felt when she sang with the whale. She reached out, fingers trembling, and as soon as she touched the sphere, an explosion of vision tore through her mind. She saw the creature above in its true form, not a mindless beast, but a guardian corrupted by something far older and hungrier. She saw the surface world drowning in eternal night, the stars themselves winking out. And then she saw herself standing on the shore, holding the sphere high as waves of light swept across the ocean. The shadows around the sphere recoiled from her touch, hissing. But something in the chamber stirred in response to enormous statues along the wall began to crack and move, their eyes lighting with a molten glow. The guardians had awakened. They stepped down from their plinths, the floor shaking with each movement, blocking the only way back up. Mira clutched the sphere tight, feeling its energy surge into her veins. If she wanted to save the source, she would have to escape with it and somehow survive the wrath of the awakened. The two guardians loomed before her, towering shapes of carved obsidian and coral, their joints grinding like tectonic plates as they moved. Their molten eyes locked on Mira, and she felt the weight of their gaze, not hateful but unyielding, like the ocean tide itself. One raised a weapon shaped like a trident forged from jagged bone, its tips glowing faintly with heat. The other spread its arms, and currents of crushing force swirled in the chamber, pulling Mira toward the walls with the threat of smashing her to pieces. The sphere in her hands pulsed wildly, sending ripples through the water. A fragment of the whale's melody surfaced in her mind, not the calming verse from before, but a sharper, urgent rhythm. Mira inhaled and began to echo it, her voice trembling at first, then growing steady. The sound seemed to cut through the heavy water, disrupting the Guardian's movements. The one with the trident faltered, tilting its head as though listening. The other slowed its swirling currents, though its glowing eyes never left her. The shadows creeping over the sphere began to peel away, dissolving like ink in sunlight. But the small victory came with a cost. The tower above shuddered, and through the open staircase, she saw the eyeless creature forcing itself deeper into the passage, shoving past the glowing beings. If it reached the chamber, there would be no escape. Myra darted sideways as the trident came down, missing her by mere inches and cracking the crystal floor. Using the rebound of the water's force, she propelled herself toward a narrow fracture in the wall, too small for the Guardians, but just wide enough for her. She tucked the sphere close to her chest and swam into the darkness. The fracture opened into a tunnel lined with glowing coral and strange runes that pulsed as she passed. The water here felt different, faster, warmer, carrying her forward, as if the ocean itself wanted her to succeed. Behind her, the sound of stone and bone echoed closer. The Guardians were following, their massive bodies grinding against the tunnel walls, breaking through inch by inch. Ahead, she saw a faint shimmer of vertical whirlpool of light spiraling upward. It was an exit, or a trap. She had seconds to decide. Mira gritted her teeth and surged forward, the sphere's glow intensifying in her arms as if sensing her choice. The tunnel narrowed sharply, forcing her to twist her body sideways to squeeze through. Jagged coral scraped against her shoulder, but she didn't slow. Behind her, the grinding roars of the Guardians grew louder, their massive arms clawing through the rock to widen the passage. A shockwave of water surged from their movements, nearly wrenching the sphere from her grasp. She burst into the chamber where the whirlpool awaited, a spiraling column of liquid light that stretched from the ocean floor into the unknown above. The water within the vortex churned with dizzying speed, yet its center shimmered with a calm, unwavering glow. The moment she entered, the sphere in her hands resonated with the whirlpool, threads of light extending from it into the spiral. The pull intensified, not dragging her down, but lifting her upward. For a fleeting moment, she thought she was safe, till the eyeless creature from the door lunged into the chamber from a side fissure, its bony fins slicing through the water. It had found a shortcut. The Guardians erupted from the tunnel behind her, but instead of attacking Mira, they turned on the creature. The chamber erupted into chaos, bone against stone, light against shadow. The force of their clash shook the entire cavern. The whirlpool's pull strengthened. Mira clutched the sphere tighter and let it draw her upward, spiraling through the column of light. The sounds of the battle faded behind her, replaced by a deep, resonant hum, and sudden stillness. She emerged into an ocean unlike any she'd seen before. The water was pale gold, the sky above an endless twilight. And far in the distance, she saw an immense arch of crystal rising from the horizon. At its peak, A single beam of light shot into the heavens, but the warmth she felt was fragile flickering. The sphere's glow was already dimming in her arms. Somewhere beyond that crystal arch, she sensed the true heart of the source, and she knew she had not escaped danger, only stepped into a deeper part of it. Mira floated for a moment, catching her breath in the golden water. It was quiet, here too quiet. No whale song, no churning currents, no heartbeat of the tower like before. The only sound was a faint, distant ringing, as if the world itself was holding its breath. She began swimming toward the crystal arch, keeping the sphere cradled close. With every stroke, the water around her seemed to shift in hue from gold to pale silver to a cold greenish tint. It was subtle at first, but soon she realized the warmth in the water was fading. Something was following her. She turned slightly, scanning the endless expanse behind. At first, she saw nothing, only the hazy shimmer of the golden sea. Then, a ripple appeared against the stillness, moving unnaturally fast, cutting straight toward her. The sphere reacted instantly, its light flaring bright enough to sting her eyes. The ripple stopped mid-approach, and from it emerged a shape then, elongated, moving with an eerie grace. It wasn't the eyeless creature, nor the guardians. This one had eyes, hundreds of them scattered across its translucent body like glowing stars. It circled her slowly, never blinking. The eyes weren't hostile, but they were searching, probing, as if trying to read the very core of her thoughts. Then, a voice, this time not in her mind, but in the water around her, vibrating in every direction at once. The light you carry is not yours, yet you swim toward its heart. Mira tightened her grip on the sphere. If I don't, everything will be swallowed by darkness. The creature's eyes shifted, all turning toward the distant crystal arch. The heart is not what you think. To reach it, you must give up the very thing you protect. Before she could question it, the creature darted ahead, slicing through the water toward the arch, and with it, the sea itself began to stir. Massive currents formed, pulling her in the same direction, whether she wanted to follow or not. As the arch loomed closer, she saw there was no base in the water. It rose straight from an abyss so deep it glowed faintly red. And at its center, where the light beam touched the water, there was a great circular gate sealed, covered in the same ancient inscriptions she had seen before. Sphere in her hands pulsed violently. The gate was reacting to her. The currents thickened into a spiraling pull, dragging Mira toward the gate at the base of the crystal arch. The closer she got, the more violently the sphere shook in her arms, as though resisting her grip or urging her forward. The creature of 100 eyes had stopped just before the abyss, coiling its elongated body in slow, deliberate loops. Its eyes no longer searched her. Instead, they all focused on the gate, unblinking. The inscriptions along the circular seal began to glow in sequence, one by one, in a rhythm that almost matched the whale's melody, but not quite. Something was off, like a song missing its final note. Mira hesitated. Her instincts screamed that once she placed the sphere into that gate, there would be no turning back. And the creature's earlier warning echoed in her mind. You must give up the very thing you protect. A deep tremor shook the water. Far above, the golden surface began to fracture, thin cracks of darkness bleeding into the sky. It wasn't just a threat, now it was happening. The sphere grew hot in her hands, light bursting from its core and casting long shadows in the abyss below. She realized the warmth wasn't leaving it, it was leaving her. The sphere was drawing something from her very being, threads of energy flowing from her hands into its heart. The gate's inscriptions blazed brighter, the pull now impossible to resist. She drifted closer until the water vibrated with a low, resonant hum. The creature of eyes spoke again, its voice more urgent. Once given, the light will not return to you. You will not return to yourself. Mira's heartbeat thundered in her ears. The cracks in the golden sky widened, and from them, something massive began to descend. Shadow made flesh, coiling and writhing. She knew she had only seconds left. Her gaze fixed on the gate, the abyss yawning below, the sphere pulsing like a living thing in her arms. She took one final breath. It could even be called that underwater and pressed the sphere into the center of the gate. The world exploded in light. The blast was silent, yet it tore through the ocean like a shock wave of pure heat and brilliance. Mira was blinded for a heartbeat, her body weightless in the sudden absence of current or gravity. When her vision cleared, the abyss below was gone. The crystal arch stood suspended in an endless expanse of shimmering white water, its beam of light now stretching infinitely upward and downward, as though connecting to oceans from different worlds. The gate before her had transformed. Its ancient inscriptions now flowed like liquid silver, rearranging themselves into new patterns she instinctively recognized, though she could not read them. The sphere had vanished into the gate, leaving her hands empty and cold. Then she realized the truth. The warmth wasn't just gone from her hands, it was gone from her. She felt lighter, weaker, as if something essential had been poured into the sphere and locked away. Her heartbeat seemed fainter, her senses dulled. From the far side of the gate, the creature of 100 eyes emerged again, though its form had changed. The scattered eyes now glowed brighter, aligned along its body like constellations, and its voice carried a strange reverence. The path is open. The heart of the source awakens. Behind it, the water began to swirl, and through the vortex she saw not an ocean, but a vast cathedral of light. Towering pillars rose from the seabed to a ceiling that shimmered like the dawn. In the center, suspended in mid-water, was a massive crystal heart-tit surface fractured, leaking streams of light that spiraled upward into the beam above. But something else moved in the shadows beyond the pillars. The eyeless guardian. It had followed her. Its bony fins scraped against the crystal walls as it circled the heart, drawn to its glow like a predator to blood. Myra's pulse quickened, despite her weakness. She had no sphere, no weapon, and only fragments of strength left. But if the creature reached the heart before her, the light she had sacrificed everything for would be lost. The creature of 100 eyes turned to her once more. Surface dweller, you opened the path. Now you must defend it. Myra tightened her fists, ignoring the hollow coldness where the sphere's warmth had once been. The crystal heart pulsed faintly in the distance, each beat weaker than the last. If it failed now, both worlds would collapse into the darkness, spilling through the cracks in the golden sky above. The creature of 100 eyes drifted beside her, its many glowing orbs fixing on the eyeless guardian that circled the heart. You cannot fight it as you are, it said, voice rippling through the water. But the light you gave is not lost. It flows through this place. You can call it back, if you're willing to bind yourself to it forever. Myra's throat tightened. Bind myself? She didn't have time to ask what that meant. The guardian had already begun to close in on the heart, its skeletal jaws opening wider than seemed possible. bony plates grinding together with a terrible, soundless hunger. She darted forward, forcing her weary body to move. She swam between the towering crystal pillars. The water thickened with energy, almost humming in response to her presence. Threads of light coiled from the pillars, reaching for her like living strands. Without thinking, she let them wrap around her wrists, her chest, her legs. Heat surged through her veins, burning away the cold, but it was not the warmth of the sphere, it was raw, wild and unyielding, as if the ocean's core itself was flooding into her. Her skin began to glow, faint at first, then brighter, until her whole body shimmered with the same radiance as the light beings she had seen guarding the tower. The exhaustion was gone, replaced by an aching power that demanded to be used. The guardian sensed the change and turned toward her. Though it had no eyes, its focus was unmistakable. It lunged, the water parting around its massive frame. Mira didn't swim away. She thrust her hands forward, and the threads of light surged from her fingertips, weaving together into a spiraling lance of pure energy. With a sharp cry, she hurled it toward the guardian. The impact was like a star igniting underwater, blinding and violent. The guardian recoiled, its bony fins cracking under the force, but it did not fall. Instead, it let out a soundless roar and charged again. Faster this time, desperate to reach her before she could strike again. The crystal heart behind her gave another weak pulse, its glow flickering. She knew she couldn't hold the guardian off forever. And then, without warning, the floor of the cathedral split open beneath them, and something far larger than either of them began to rise. From the chasm in the cathedral floor, a colossal shape emerged, at first just a shadow, then a vast living form of molten crystal and flowing water. Its body shifted like glass being forged, molten seams glowing along jagged armor, while currents swirled within it as if the ocean itself had taken shape. Its face was vague, more suggestion than feature. But to immense eyes the size of Mira's entire body opened, radiating the same light as the crystal heart. The 100-eyed creature bowed its long body low. The first guardian, it whispered, almost in awe, wakened only when the source is at its final breath. The eyeless guardian froze mid-charge. Its body trembled, and for the first time it seemed to hesitate. But hesitation was not retreat. It lunged again, aiming to strike the crystal heart while the first guardian was still rising. Myra's instincts flared. She darted upward, weaving between the pillars, light streaming from her hands. The first guardian moved with unexpected speed for its size, a massive arm sweeping through the water in a tidal wave that knocked the eyeless guardian back. The impact shattered part of the cathedral wall, scattering shards of crystal into the abyss below. The first guardian's voice rumbled through the water, so deep Mira felt it in her bones. "Child of the surface, you carry the binding light. We will strike together." Mira nodded, her own glow intensifying until she could hardly see her own outline. The threads of light around her wove themselves into spiraling patterns along her arms, legs, and chest armor that pulsed with the rhythm of the heart behind her. The eyeless guardian roared without sound and lunged again, bony fins slicing through the water. Myra surged forward at the same time as the first guardian, her lance of light reforming in her grip. At the last instant, she dove low, sweeping past the guardian's underside, while the first guardian slammed its arm down from above. The impact pinned the creature for a split second, just enough for Myra to drive her lance deep into the cracks in its bony chest. The water erupted in a shockwave of light and shadow. The guardian convulsed. fissures of brightness tearing through its skeletal frame before it finally broke apart into drifting fragments, dissolving into the water like black ash.
Oh.
Silence fell. The cathedral's pillars glowed brighter. The crystal heart pulsed strong and steady, and the cracks in the golden sky above began to seal. But the first guardian's gaze lingered on Mira. "You are bound now," it said, voice echoing through the water. "The light will never leave you, and neither will the call." Before she could ask what that meant, the water around her began to warp and pull. The cathedral fading into a blur of gold and white, she was being sent back. Mira felt the pull intensify, the golden water stretching into an endless tunnel of spiraling light. The first guardian's immense form faded into a shimmering blur, but its gaze, calm yet unyielding, remained, fixed on her until the very last moment. She broke the surface with a sudden gasp, the shock of breathing real air almost stealing her voice. The sky above was ablaze with the colors of sunset deep, amber melting into crimson, streaks of violet stretching toward the horizon. The waves rolled softly around her, warm and steady, as if the ocean itself was resting after a long battle. For a moment, she simply floated, letting the rhythm of the surface rock her. But even here, far from the cathedral of light, she could still feel it, the constant hum deep inside her chest. Pulse that wasn't her own heartbeat, but something older, vaster, the binding light. When she looked toward the horizon, she saw it a single pure beam of light rising from the sea, piercing the clouds and vanishing into the heavens. It was faint compared to the blinding radiance she had witnessed in the depths, yet it carried the same sense of infinite reach. Round it, the air shimmered faintly, as if reality itself bent in its presence. Mira swam slowly toward the shore, the salt temps of the air grounding her in the world she knew. But she could not ignore what had changed. Her reflection in the water shimmered strangely. The glow beneath her skin pulsed faintly, veins of light tracing down her arms like living rivers. She knew the truth now, no matter where she went. No matter how many days passed, she was no longer just from the surface. She belonged to something deeper. The first guardian's words echoed in her memory. "The light will never leave you, and neither will the call." On the horizon, a gull cried. The wind picked up, tugging at her hair, carrying with it the faintest echo of a distant whale song. Too far for any human ear, yet clear as day to her. It was not a warning this time, but a promise. Somewhere far beyond the reach of ships or charts, the deep places of the world still stirred. The darkness she had seen was not only driven back. When it returned, as it surely would, the ocean would summon her again. Mira stepped onto the sand, the last of the tide lapping at her heels. She looked once more at the fading beam on the horizon, then turned toward the land, aware that no matter where she walked now, she carried the ocean's light within her. And when the call came again, she would answer without hesitation.